Welcome back to Human X Intelligent. Last week in episode 6, we explored the age of agency, a moment where products do more than respond. They initiate, they choose, and they act. Today we take the natural next step. If systems can act, how do we ensure they can act effectively? If they have autonomy, how do we prevent chaos? And if they can make decisions, how do we design the boundaries that keep their behavior coherent? This episode is about autonomy. What is it, what is not, and how do we design systems that act with purpose rather than unpredictability? So let's begin. Autonomy is often confused with freedom, but intelligent systems are not free. They are guided by constraints, incentives, signals, and rules that shape their behavior. A system is autonomous when it can decide between multiple valid actions and not when it can do anything. Autonomy lives between two extremes. Too little autonomy, and the system becomes useless. Too much autonomy, and the system becomes unpredictable. Designing autonomy is about finding the middle point where initiative supports clarity rather than breaking it. So, as a product becomes more intelligent, autonomy becomes necessary for 3 reasons. Reason number 1 is speed. Humans cannot make every micro decision. Intelligent systems accelerate workflows by acting on their own. Reason number 2 is adoption. So, autonomy allows systems to evolve with context rather than waiting for manual configuration. And reason number 3 is cognitive relief. When a system takes initiatives in the right places, users experience less friction and more flow. Autonomy is not a feature, it is an interaction model. So before we talk about designing autonomy, we need to understand what happens when it's implemented poorly. Risks like hidden decision making. When a system acts without explaining why, trust erodes, trust disappears. Risk number 2, which is the runway optimization. When a model chases a metric, human oversight behavior kind of drifts, disappears, starts to make it less and less obvious, less and less there. Risk number 3, which is human override fatigue. When a system acts too often or at the wrong time, humans stop paying attention. Autonomy without clarity, like I always like to say, does not feel like something that we want. It feels intrusive. It doesn't feel good. Every intelligent system sits somewhere on a spectrum of initiative. Think of it in 4 levels, defined by where the human stands in the decision loop. So level number 1 is observation, human in control. The system monitors and learns but does not act. It provides data for the human to interpret. Level number 2 is suggestion, human in the loop. The system proposes actions but cannot proceed without an explicit yes. The human is the gatekeeper. Level number 3, assistance, human on the loop. The system performs actions automatically but provides high visibility. The human acts as a supervisor who can veto or intervene in real time. Level number 4, which is delegation, human out of the loop. The system handles tasks independently. The human only reviews the outcomes periodically. The question for every product team is, what is the cost of a mistake? If the cost is high, you stay at level 2. If the speed requirement is high and the risk is low, you move toward level 4. So this is how you calculate the type of risk or not risk that you want and the level that you need to be in order to optimize and have a good strategy for this kind of autonomy. So here is the practical framework for designing autonomy that feels like a partnership and not a takeover. The principle number 1 is define the autonomy floor and ceiling. What is the minimum system should do? And what is the absolute limit it should never cross without the human signature? For graceful degradation is principle number 2. If the autonomous system hits an edge case, it doesn't understand. It shouldn't just fail or guess. It should gracefully hand the controls back to the human. Principle number 3 is the kill switch and reversibility. Autonomy requires an escape hatch. Users must be able to undo, override, or reset the system to a minimal state instantly without friction. Principle number 4, explain the why, even one-line explanation. I moved this task because it was overdue. Creates trust. Clarity is the antidote to the black box effect. Principle number 5 is respect the automation paradox. The more reliable the autonomy, the less practice the human gets. Design check-ins to keep humans' mental models of the task sharp so they are ready to step into the system fails. If autonomy does not respect human agency, it isn't a tool, it's a liability. Let's look at autonomy that works. So, a calendar tool that purpose meeting times based on patterns is a good example of this. Design assistants that structure a layout but let users refine it is another good one. Email systems that draft replies but require review before sending is another one. Project tools that flag risks before they become visible. I could be here all day sharing multiple cases, but these are some of the ones that we can take in consideration. In each of these cases, autonomy acts as a partner and not a replacement. The system initiates, the human steers, and together they maintain clarity. If you ever went to one of my talks, you know that I share little examples of how to have this pattern on a design. And if not, there's also a video on YouTube on it. I will leave it in the description in case you want to take a look of what I'm talking about. But now the opposite. Let's focus on the negative part. So recommendation systems that over-personalize and create bubbles. Autocorrections that change meaning instead of fixing errors. For example, assistants that trigger flows without confirmation, or even models that generate overconfident content without visibility into sources. In these cases, autonomy creates uncertainty. Users feel out of the loop. Teams lose control over behavior. The system becomes unpredictable. This is why autonomy must be intentional and bounded. The more capable the system becomes, the more collaborative our interactions will need to be. The future looks like this. Humans decide the goals, systems propose the path, humans refine the direction, system executes the details, and both stay aligned through feedback and explanation. This is what we should be aiming for in order for us to be here, in order for us to have something that actually helps in our day-to-day lives and professional lives, wherever we want to build, but it has to have this kind of balance, this kind of equilibrium. The shift turns autonomy into a relationship built on clarity, trust, and shared understanding. Autonomy without alignment creates chaos, which we don't want. Autonomy with alignment creates flow, which is exactly what we want. This was episode 7 of Human X Intelligent. Autonomy is already here, as we know. The question is whether we design it with intention or let it emerge without structure. Next week, we will explore how multi-agent systems coordinate, compete, and collaborate, and why coherence becomes the next frontier of intelligent product design. Thank you so much for listening. Share this with someone building in the age of intelligence. See you next week.